In this video, I'm going to show you how to build your own AI chatbot, which can be put on a website or even used on WhatsApp to communicate with customers. You don't need any previous experience, and by the end of this video, you're going to understand how chatbots work and how you can build your own for whatever custom use you may need. For this tutorial, I'm going to be using a platform called Chatling, which is free to use, meaning you won't have to pay anything and you can have a chatbot up and running on your website. So I'm going to start with a quick demo showing the chatbot that I built, and then I'm going to do a live build where I show you step by step how I built the chatbot. All right, so I've just completed the live build. As you can see, we've now built out a chatbot, which is appearing on my website. So I'm going to give a quick demo showing how the chatbot works, and then you can go and watch the live build so you know how to make something like this yourself. So if I open up the chatbot, it's going to first of all ask me how it can help me. So there's two things we can do. We can either ask questions or we can book appointments. So I'm going to start off with a question, and how it's going to answer this is using a knowledge base that I've supplied. So as you can see, there's some information on our company, which is going to be provided in here. You could also have this from your website or something like that. And in this case, it's going to ask me what I would like to know. So I'm maybe going to ask about how much services cost. And what it's going to do now is it's now going to look into this document. It's going to check the pricing information, and it's going to give me a response based on that. So as you can see, it's saying we offer flexible subscription-based pricing tailored to their business and specific usage requirements. For exact pricing details, please contact us directly to receive a custom quote. And as you can see, that's basically the information that we've said in relation to our pricing. The next one is, say for example, I had another question. I can ask that as well. We'll do one more question and then we'll book an appointment. So I can say I have another question, and I can ask maybe about what languages do you support? And it's going to respond saying that the AI currently supports English, Spanish, and French, with more languages being added regularly. If you need support in a specific language, please let us know. And again, that's being taken from this document here. We have some supported languages information. So now let's do the appointment booking. So I'm going to say I want to book an appointment. The AI is now saying that it would love to help me book an appointment. Which service am I interested in? Let's say I want something like an AI consultation. I can then put my information in, so into this little form, and submit. And it's now asking when I would like an appointment, so I can select a date and a time. So let's say I wanted an appointment maybe on 2 o'clock on the 20th. We can submit that. It's now saying to wait a second whilst I get booked in. And it's now saying the appointment is booked. Is there anything else it can help with? And what it's done whilst it's saying that is it's going into our make.com scenario where we've sent this information to a scenario where it's going to book into our calendar. And as you can see now, if we look in our calendar, we do now have an appointment. So an AI consultation with Tom at 2 p.m., which has been booked in. So hopefully you can kind of see what we're going to be making. And now I'll cut back to me from the past where I'm going to do the live build and talk you through step by step how I made this. All right, so now that you've seen the demo, this is going to be me from the past building out the chatbot that you just saw me demo. So the first thing you're going to want to do is head over to chatling.ai. This is a great platform for building chatbots because it's quite user-friendly, but it also has a lot of options. So once you actually learn how to build these things, you can make something a lot more advanced as well. You don't just have to use a really simple chatbot. So what you're going to want to do is create an account. As it says here, it's free, and that's not just for a 2-week period or something. You can have a free account for as long as you want. There are some limitations to the free plan, which I'll go over, but it is still, very viable, even when using it for free. Once you create your account, you should find yourself on a dashboard which looks like this. As you can see, you have an option to create a chatbot, and you also have some other options down here, things like the documentation. The only thing I'm going to go over quickly is the billing and the usage, or more specifically the plans. So as I mentioned before, it is free. There is a free plan. And how this works is you can use it for free as long as you want. The only limitations here is that there are limited AI credits, which means that if you want to have your AI responding to user questions, you're limited to 100 AI responses per month. This doesn't mean that users can only type 100 messages per month. It's just about the number of times you use AI responses. But as you're going to see from this video, you're not always using AI responses. You can do a lot without using the AI and only using the AI when it's needed. There are also some other things which aren't included in the free plan, but I will cover those in the video. If you do want to upgrade, there is a starter option which can cover almost any amount of usage, unless you're a company which has got loads and loads and loads of users coming to your website, needing to ask for a bunch of different requests. You should be fine with the starter plan. And as you can see, this is still very affordable at just $25 a month. And this has basically all the features you're going to need. And then finally, if you really wanted to, if you had loads and loads of traffic, you could upgrade to the ultimate plan. I've not actually used this personally. There is more usage and stuff, but I think it's only that necessary if you have either a lot of different uses, or maybe if you're someone who's developing loads of chatbots. As you can see, you can have up to 35 at once. But now that I've covered that, we're going to get straight into actually building the chatbot. So you want to head over here and click Create Chatbot. Once you get here, you can select where you want your chatbot to be. So you can either have it on the web or on WhatsApp. For this tutorial, I'm going to be creating a website chatbot, but the method for WhatsApp is very similar. So by following along with this, you would also be able to create a WhatsApp chatbot. You're then going to find yourself on a page which looks like this. These are just a few templates that you could use if you want to start off with a kind of already made chatbot. These can be helpful, but for the most part, they're not built to be really optimized. They're just very basic templates. So what we're going to do is start from scratch and build our own. So you're going to enter the name for your chatbot. This doesn't really matter. This is just how it's saved on the Chatling platform. It doesn't affect what people are going to see when they go to your website. So after you've created your chatbot, you're going to find yourself on a dashboard, which looks like this. There's a few important things which I'm going to cover. So first of all, the first thing you might notice is that here it's saying we need to upgrade to view new conversations and new contacts and leads. This may sound like a big problem. You may think that it means you're not going to be able to see your conversations without paying, but that's not actually the case. You can still view all of your conversations in this conversations section here. All this means is you can't get your insights, for example, the number of new conversations and the number of new leads collected. So aside from conversations, the most important things are going to be the builder section, the knowledge base section, and the appearance section. And you also have your integrations over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the appearance. So this is things like how it's going to look on your website, the icons that it's going to use, and things like that. So first of all, we have the logo. So this is where you're probably going to want to put in your brand logo. So I'm going to upload mine really quickly. And as you can see, once you've uploaded your logo, it's not actually changed anything straight away. But then when we go down to our other sections, it's going to come in handy. But before that, we have the primary colors. So this is just going to be the background color and the text color. So in our case, again, I'll use my kind of brand colors. We'll use a light blue sort of thing, but you can pick whatever you want. And then for the foreground color, this is the text sort of color. We're going to just leave this at white in my case, but you can change that as well. The next thing is the header icon. So this is what's going to appear next to your chatbot's name. So if we turn this on, you can see we're now getting the company logo. I like to have this on. I think it just looks quite professional. It just makes the chatbot look a little bit more custom. So I would turn that on, and then you have the bot avatar. So that's going to be when they're chatting, what they're going to see. And again, I would usually set this to logo. If you do want, you can have a custom image. So say you want something different, you can have that as well. But I would just stick with the logo. Finally, you have the chat button. So this is going to be when the chat is closed, what's going to appear. So as you can see right now, we just have a little speech bubble, which looks quite nice. I also quite like using the logo for this, but you can kind of go between the two, or if you wanted, you could have, again, a custom image. Next is going to be the interface. So this is going to be how it actually looks on your website. So the width of the chat, that's how wide it's going to be on the screen. I like to just keep this at the default of 400. The language you can change. So if you only want it in one language, you can do that. But typically it's going to just stick to the default language of the user. And then also the position. So I like to keep this just in the bottom right. That's what most companies will use. But if you wanted, you could also move it about on the page. The next one is text. So this is customizing the text up here and also the footer. Starting with the header, this is just the name of the chatbot. So in our case, we can call it maybe your brand name and then assistant. You don't have to do this. You could just keep it as it was. But again, it gives a bit more of a personal feel. And finally, the other things you can configure is things like the text here saying powered by Chatling. You can remove that if you pay for the starter plan or above. You can also have ratings for your responses. I don't think this is that necessary, but you can have that if you want. One which is quite helpful is the hovering message. So this is the message that users will see if they're on your website. So for example, you can have it so after 3 seconds, it can have a message such as, hey, how can I help you today? Question mark, or something like that. Or, hey, do you need any help? Things like that. And again, you can customize things like the font color if you want. You can change it to be a bit more in your brand image sort of thing. or also the background color if instead you wanted to have it so the background is in your brand color, things like that. But that's the main one. The other one is things like the sources of your AI responses, and also having it so that the chat will automatically open when someone loads your website. But I don't think either of those are that important. I think that all the features I've shown you so far are probably the only ones that you want on. So the next thing is the builder and the knowledge base. The knowledge base we're going to come back to after we've started building it. What we're going to do is we're going to start off with the builder, which I'm going to do right now. So after clicking on the builder button, it's going to take you to this little workspace area here. And this is where you're going to actually build out the flow which your chatbot is going to follow. So at first this might look a bit confusing, but there's just a few features that you need to get used to, and then you can basically create whatever you want. Starting off, what we're going to do is we're going to drag blocks into our scenario, and this is going to basically make the conversation happen. So as we can see, we've got a start here. So as soon as the chat starts, the first thing we're going to want to do is add in a text block. And what this means is that when the conversation starts, we're going to send a message. As you see here, we have sending message. So this means our AI is going to send a message to the user. And then we also have capture responses. So this means that when a user sends a message, we're going to capture their response either through text or through buttons or whatever else. We also have some other things like actions. So this is how we're going to do things like sending emails or maybe booking appointments into a calendar. And then finally, we also have AI responses, which is going to be very helpful when answering user questions from our knowledge base. So for this example, what I'm going to be building is a very simple chatbot. It's going to have two main features, which is going to be the booking feature, and it's going to have a customer question feature where it's going to answer customer questions, as you will have seen in the demo. So this is quite a simple thing to build out, but also very helpful. I imagine most people who want chatbots on their websites, they're going to want something which can both answer questions and book appointments. Those are the two main things you may want done. So what we're going to do first is we're going to have the chatbot work out which one of these paths the user would like to go down. So we can say, hey, welcome to Next Step AI. How can I help you today? And this is basically means that when the conversation starts, our AI is going to send this message to the user. And I'll quickly mention that we have these little buttons here. So these are really helpful for actually seeing what's going on. So you can preview your chatbot. So if I look here now, when I open the chat, it's going to send this message. So now that we've sent a message to our user, we now want to capture their response. So after asking them how you can help them today, we're going to give them two options. So we're going to give them a button, and this is basically buttons that they can click on to tell you what they want to do. So as I mentioned, we have two options that they can go down. We're going to say either book an appointment, or the other option is going to be if the user has a question. So we can say, I have a question. And then the user will be able to select one of these two options. So again, I'll quickly preview this. I'm not going to keep previewing everything I do, but for now, just so you can see how it starts, we can see that now it's saying, welcome to Next Step AI. How can I help you today? And they have the option of either booking an appointment or saying they have a question. Next, we want to create paths for both of these. So first of all, we're going to go for the having a question path, since this one is a bit more simple. So if a user has a question, what we're first going to want to do is we're going to want to ask them what their question is. So for this, we can drag in a text block, and we can basically just ask the user, what would you like to know? And then after we've asked them that, we're then going to want to capture their response. So we're going to add again a capture response, and this time it's going to be a text. So this means the user can type out what they would like to know as a question. And then what's important when you're capturing this response is you need to save their response in a variable so we can use that later on in the chat. So what we're going to call this is we will call it user question. And what this means is basically whatever they type into the chatbot now is going to be stored in this variable called user question, which means that later on, when we give this question to our AI, it's going to be able to see the question that they asked, basically. So we can save this. And then the next thing, as I kind of mentioned just now, is we're going to have an AI response. So we've just asked the user for their question. Now we want to send that question to our AI. So first of all, we want to actually put the question in. So how we're going to do that is we're going to do these curly brackets. And what this is going to do is it's going to open up all of our variables. And then if we scroll through here, we can find the variable that we just created called user question. So this means that the question being sent to the AI is the user's question. And then the other thing that's important to do is actually give a data source and give some information to the AI on how you want it to respond to questions. So how we can do that is we can either click on add data sources here, or what I'm going to do is go into the AI configuration over here. And then first of all, we can do instructions. And basically all we're going to do in here is we're going to tell our AI instructions in terms of what its job is, how it's meant to respond to these questions and things like that. Another nice feature is that we have some examples here, so we can kind of see some ideas of how you can write this. I'm just going to tell it, you are a customer support assistant. Your job is to answer customer questions about our services. And then we can give it some information on its tone and stuff. So again, if we look through the examples, we can say your tone of voice must be professional. This is a good one. You must act as a professional customer support assistant, never break character. That's quite similar, so we'll leave that on for now. When using links, don't show the entire URL, instead incorporate link into the text. That's a very nice one. So say for example, it was linking someone to a page where they can do something. Instead of just pasting the link, it can have it as one of those options where they hover over the text and click on the text, and that makes a link. In our case, we don't need that, but that's quite a helpful one to add. And maybe finally, we'll do one more. We'll just say, limit your answers to maximum of 5 sentences. Or maybe we'll even make it shorter. Let's say maximum of 3 sentences. And earlier on, we can also say, always answer in a concise manner. As you can imagine, you can customize this a lot more depending on how you want your responses to be. For this example, I'm just going to leave it at this. But as you can imagine, it's quite easy to kind of customize this and change the way your AI responds. The next thing is going to be the knowledge base, as I mentioned. So if we click on here, we can go to knowledge bases. This is just going to take us back to the original dashboard where I mentioned there was a knowledge base section. If we go into here, we can add a data source. So what you can do here is you can select a different data source. So there's a few options. As you can see, we have websites. So for example, if you have your own website, which has all the information the customer needs to know, you can just put in your website URL and the chatbot will be able to look through all your website's information and respond based on that. Another option, which is what I'm going to do today, is you can just have a document. So in this case, like I said, I'm going to have a very simple PDF, which is going to go over all the things a customer might ask, and then the information which the chatbot needs to know to respond. So I'm going to upload that now. So I've uploaded this knowledge base now. I'll very quickly open it so you can see what it looks like. And as you can see, in this case, I'm just using a very, very simple example. It's basically got some information on the company, the services we offer, the pricing, supported languages, all sorts of stuff like this. But if you wanted it to be able to answer all sorts of questions, you would probably want to give it a lot more of a detailed document with all sorts of information that it can use to answer customer questions. But for now, I'm going to leave it like this. Again, if you just want to have a simple setup, I would definitely recommend just connecting it to your website, especially if your website has a lot of information. And you can also combine multiple ones together, so you don't have to only have a single one. So now that we've done that, we can go back to our builder and we can see that now if we refresh, we'll quickly save and then we will refresh. We can now see that it's got a response source. So if I close up all this, we can now see that the AI is going to basically use that knowledge base we just created as its response source. It's going to be given the user question. And then we can also, if we wanted, save the response in a variable. Say you wanted it to have multiple stages of answering. So maybe the first answer is a short, concise answer, and then it gives more information. You could save the initial response so you can give it to your next AI so it knows what information it's already given to avoid repeating information. So now what it's going to do is going to send that response. I'm going to quickly show that in a second. The only thing I'm going to do before that is basically give one more option to our user. So after we've sent that response, we can then send another message basically asking the user, is there anything else I can help with? And then again, we can add 2 more buttons in this case, and we can either say, or 3 buttons rather, we can say either I have another question, book an appointment, or end conversation. And then once we've done that, we can then connect these paths. So if, say for example, someone has another question, we can loop it back round. So it's going to go back to the question, basically flow. So it's going to then ask them, what would you like to know again? And then capture their response and again, answer it. It can also go to the booking path. So once we've created that, we're going to connect it to that. And then the last one is end conversation, where it's going to basically just end the conversation. So now we'll quickly demo it so we can see basically how it's working. So if I ask, so it's asking me, hey, how can I help you today? I'll say I have a question. And then it's going to ask what I would like to know. So I'm going to quickly go and check the knowledge base and see what things I can ask. I could, for example, ask about supported languages. So what languages do you support? And as you can see, it's basically generating that response. It's saying Next Step AI currently supports English, Spanish, and French, with more languages being added regularly. And as you can see, that's basically our response in here. And then it's asking, is there anything else I can help with? If I wanted to loop back around, say I have another question. Let's say this time I want to ask, how much do services cost? So I'm not asking it word for word what it's saying, but it's still going to be able to kind of work out that I'm asking about pricing. And then it can say, Next Step AI offers flexible subscription-based pricing tailored to your business size and usage requirements. For detailed pricing information, please contact us to receive a custom quote. So as you can see, we've now basically set up the question response side of things. We now need to set up the booking of appointments. So this is going to be quite similar at the start. So we're going to start with text, basically asking them, which of our services are you interested in? And then again, we can have some sort of button response. So let's say it can just give them an option of 3 different things. We can maybe say they want voice AI, they want AI consultation, or maybe they want AI chatbot or custom AI chatbot. And then again, we want to store the response in a variable, so we can call this service type, and that is going to basically store their response in a variable so we can use that later. The next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add another block. So in this case, we will add another text block, and we're going to connect all of these. If you wanted, you could have different paths for each option. So say, for example, someone wanted one type of appointment, it could go down one path, and for a different type of appointment, it could go down another path. But for this, I'm going to just keep it simple and do it like this. And then now what we can do is we can basically ask them, okay, great. Could you give me some information so I can book your appointment? And then we can collect another type of response, and this time we will do a form. So in this case, we can basically create a form type response. You're going to see when I preview this how this looks. But what we can do is we can basically get the user to give us different information. So we can maybe ask for their first name, and we can have that as a variable called first name. We can then have another part of the form maybe called email, and we can have type email, and we can again store that as a variable called email. And then finally, we can maybe also have something called company name, and we can store that as the user's company. So now we're going to collect all this information, and we can close out of that. And then once the user has given us that information, we can then send that to one more text, which is going to basically ask them for their time they would like. Great. Could you let me know when you would like an appointment? And there's a few different ways you could do this. What you could do is just have them type it out. So if they wanted to say something specific, you could do it like that. In this case, again, we're just going to capture a response, and we'll do it in the form of date and time. So this is going to basically allow them to select a date and time. We'll save it in the variable date time. And then again, you can format this a bit more, so you can have it so they give you date and time. You could have it so there's a minimum time, so they have to select a date which is maybe at least 1 day in advance, after 9 o'clock, let's say. And you could also have a max time, so they can't go too far in advance, but we'll just leave it at this for now. And then once we've got that information off of them, the next thing we need to do is we need to book that appointment for them. Just a quick note, there are other ways to do this. So one thing you can do, for example, is you can use an integration. So there's a lot of integrations already built into Chatling. So say, for example, you use cow.com. You could actually maybe make this a bit more simple by just having it so instead of asking for this information through here, you could put in a cow.com block where you can put in your calendar link, and you can put in your information and things like this, and then have it so that they can basically select the information through here. The way I'm going to do it is a bit more flexible. Say, for example, down the line, you wanted to be able to reschedule appointments, cancel appointments, and things like that. That's when it's helpful to use an external automation tool, which is what I'm going to do in this tutorial. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect to something called make.com. If you're not familiar with make.com, I have a few videos on it, but basically it's an automation tool where you can send information to your scenario, and what you can do is you can then do lots of different things. So instead of just being able to book an appointment, you could book an appointment, send an email, update your CRM, all sorts of things like this. In this case, I'm going to keep it simple and I'm going to talk you through what to do. So even if you're not familiar, you can still follow along. All you're going to want to do is you're going to want to head to make.com. In this case, I've already built out a very simple scenario. In reality, you would probably use something a bit more complicated, something where you also send emails, where you also update your database. But in this case, I want to keep it really simple. We're just going to collect the data using a webhook, and then we're also going to update our calendar with the information from the user. You're going to copy this address. When we go back into Chatling, what we can do is we can use this module called a HTTP request. I'm also going to quickly add some text beforehand, just basically telling the user, just hold on a second whilst I book you in. And then it's going to connect. And what we're going to do here is we're going to use a post request and we're going to put in our URL that we've copied. So this means that whenever we get to this point in the scenario, it's going to send all the information over to here. Then what we want to do is send over the different parameters that's going to be sent here. So that's basically just meaning what information are we going to send to the scenario. So we want to send the first name, which we collected earlier, and we're going to send over whatever that variable is. We're going to want to send the email, and we can send whatever that variable is. So this is now going to send all that information over to our scenario. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. I'll close out of this. Before we do the test, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just finish this off actually. What we can do is we can put in a final block. We can put in a text block. In this case, we'll just say success for both. What you would probably actually do is check the appointment time first. And then if you got a fail, which would mean the appointment was not available, you could ask them to select another time and maybe give them some options. In this case, we're just going to assume that all times are available and say we got a success. And then we can say, okay, your appointment is booked. Is there anything else I can help with? And then we can finally get one more set of buttons so we can ask for what they would like. So we can either say, I have a question, and then you can send them to the question section, or you could send them to end conversation. For this one, we can connect them over here to the question section. So that's over here, this one over here. And then what we could actually do quickly is we can say a quick text block here, and we can say, thank you for your time. Hope you have a great day. If you need anything else, let me know. And then we can connect both of these, the end conversation buttons, over here. And then I also forgot to connect this book appointment. So we can connect this book appointment to our booking appointment bit over here. And now everything is all connected. So what we can do is, as you can see, this is connecting here as it highlights. So now our flow is complete. So we'll do one test and then that will be everything. So if we save this and we preview, so we also need to just run our scenario since it's not currently active. So we'll say wait for new data. What we can do is we can say, first, I have a question. And again, I can ask about prices. What price do you offer? You can see we're getting the same answer. Now it's asking if there's anything else. So let's say I wanted to book an appointment. I can come over here. I can say I want an AI consultation. I can put in my information. So I can say Tom, I can put in my email, and I can say the company name. Submit that. We can now say when we would like the appointment. So let's say we wanted it on this day, at this time, we can send that over. And now if we look into our scenario, we receive that data. And what we've done is we have booked in an event. So now if we go into our calendar, we will see that as well. So as you can see, when I go into my calendar here, you can now see that it's been booked in for the time that I selected, and it's saying voice AI with Tom. And then finally, if we go back here, it's now saying that it's been booked in, asking if there's anything else. So I'll just say we can end the conversation. And now we can see that end conversation message. So now the chatbot is basically fully finished. The only thing you're probably wondering now is how you actually get it on your website. So what you're going to want to do for that is click publish. Now that your chatbot is published, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go back here, and then you want to click on website widget. So this is going to basically allow you to add it to your websites. You can then select the type of display you would like. So I would usually go for the floating chat. And then all you're going to have to do is then paste this code into your website. So if you have your own website, there's a few different ways to do this, but it's quite simple. They have integration guides here, so you can see how to do it for a specific website. But I'll just very quickly go and put that into the website I'm going to use, and then you can see how it looks. So as you can see, I'm now on my own website, Next Step AI. And as you can see, we've now got the chatbot implemented. So I've put it into the code. And now if I were to open this, we're getting the same chatbot as before with all the same functions. So hopefully this was helpful. If you do have any questions, then feel free to leave a comment. And if you are interested in having a custom chatbot built, we do also offer that. So you can go and check out this website here, Next Step AI, get in touch, and we'll be able to offer you a custom chatbot if that's something you're interested in having.